You wake up one morning and you're 40. The number doesn't feel real yet. But your bank account already knows. Something shifted while you weren't looking. The math stopped being theoretical. The runway got shorter without asking permission. You open your retirement statement. You stare at the balance. You do quick arithmetic in your head. And your stomach drops a little. This is the moment almost nobody warns you about, and it arrives without ceremony. 40 isn't a birthday, it's a financial event. Before 40, money felt like a long story still being written. After 40, the chapters start counting backwards. You can feel it even if you can't say it. The numbers don't change overnight. Your salary, your savings, your debts, they look the same on Monday as they did on Sunday. But the meaning of those numbers changes completely. $1 at 30 is a seed. $1 at 40 is closer to a harvest decision. That's the shift nobody explains to you. The relationship between time and money inverts quietly. Time used to be your biggest asset, and now it's your most expensive resource. You start noticing it in strange places: the cost of a vacation, the cost of saying yes to a renovation, the cost of one more year of indecision. And you start hearing a quieter voice underneath the noise. A voice that asks, am I actually on track, or have I just been moving fast in place? Here's what changes the moment you cross 40. Compounding stops being your friend the way it used to be. You still have time, but time has stopped being patient with you. A 30-year-old who saves an extra $200 a month buys himself decades of growth. A 40-year-old who saves the same amount buys himself maybe half of that. Same effort, different physics. This isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up gently. Because the men who do well in their 40s are the ones who stop pretending the rules haven't changed. The second thing that changes is your relationship with risk. In your 20s, risk was a thrill. In your 30s, risk was a strategy. In your 40s, risk becomes a calculation with consequences. A bad bet at 25 gets absorbed by time. A bad bet at 45 quietly rewrites your retirement. You start to feel this even on small decisions. Should you keep the car another 3 years? Should you refinance now or wait? Should you finally talk to someone about your portfolio? The questions get heavier because the answers get shorter in their reach. There's less room for the do-over, and men who don't accept that often double down on the wrong things. The third change is the one almost nobody talks about. Your lifestyle locks in around 40 whether you choose it or not. The house, the cars, the schools, the routines. They harden into a monthly number that's harder to lower than to raise. And that number quietly decides what your 60s will look like. This is the lifestyle inflation trap in its final form. It doesn't show up as a spending spree, it shows up as a slow upgrade you stop noticing. You don't remember when dinner out went from $40 to $120. You don't remember when your insurance, your subscriptions, your gym, and your kids' activities became a small fortune. But somewhere along the way they did. And by 40, you're not just spending more. You're spending more on things that feel like they're not optional anymore. That's the trap inside the trap. Healthy money at 40 looks different than at 30. At 30, you're building habits. At 40, you're stress testing them. Healthy looks like knowing your monthly burn within a few $100s. Trap looks like an estimate that's been wrong for years. The gap between those two states is where most quiet financial damage lives. You might be thinking, but I've been responsible, I have savings, I have a 401k, I'm not behind. And maybe you're not, but responsible at 30 and on track at 40 are two different conversations. The first is a habit. The second is a math problem with a deadline. The average man around 45 has saved somewhere in the range of low to mid 6 figures across retirement accounts. That sounds like a lot until you ask what it has to do for the next 40 years. Suddenly, it sounds smaller. This is where the quiet panic comes from, not from doing badly, but from realizing the goalposts were always farther than you assumed. The number you needed was never the number you imagined. Let me ask you something before we go deeper. Where are you sitting right now with all this? Did this video find you ahead of the curve, on time, or running behind? Drop a comment and tell me your age and one word for how your money feels at this moment. Calm, anxious, foggy, determined, whatever it is. Your honest answer might be exactly what another man scrolling this video at midnight needs to read. He's doing the same math you are. He thinks he's the only one. And I read these. Not all of them, but more than you'd expect. Your story shapes the next video for someone you'll never meet. Now let's keep going, because the next shift is the one that catches most men completely off guard and has very little to do with the markets. After 40, your income stops being the main lever for the future you actually want. This is the part most men resist hearing the longest, and the part that quietly costs them the most over time. For most of your adult life, earning more solved almost every financial problem you had. A raise, a bonus, a new side project always seemed to clean things up. The fix was always upstream, somewhere outside of you. But somewhere in your 40s, the math flips. What you keep starts to matter more than what you make. Two men with the same salary at 45 can have wildly different futures based on what they do with the next dollar. This is the quiet difference between high income and actual wealth. One is a stream, the other is a structure. And 40 is the decade you stop confusing them. You see it in the men around you. The ones who looked rich at 35 and look stretched at 45. The ones who looked quiet at 35 and look unbothered at 45. The difference is rarely talent. It's almost always the spread between earning and keeping. The men who win the second half learned to widen that spread when nobody was watching. There's another shift that hits harder than it should. Your time horizon gets honest with you. At 30, retirement is a faraway country you might visit. At 40, it's a city you can see on the map. At 50, you can read the street signs. And once you can see the city, you start asking real questions. What kind of life will my money actually buy me there? Will I be free or just done working? Those are not the same thing. A lot of men around 40 start confusing exhaustion with progress. They tell themselves they'll figure it out when things calm down. But things don't calm down, they just get more expensive. The men who pull ahead in their 40s are the ones who stop waiting for a quiet season. They make decisions inside the noise. They stop treating planning like a luxury for later. Here's an advanced nuance most people miss. 40 isn't just about saving more, it's about restructuring what you already have. Two portfolios with the same balance can behave completely differently in a downturn. One protects you, the other punishes you. And in your 40s, you don't have decades to recover from the wrong one. This is why men your age start thinking about allocation, taxes, and sequence of returns. Words that meant nothing at 30 start meaning everything at 45. Because a 10% loss in your 50s takes far more to recover than the same loss in your 20s. Most men never adjust for this. They keep playing a 30-year-old's game with a 50-year-old stakes, and the market eventually charges them for it. There's also the family math. By 40, your money decisions stop being only yours. A spouse, kids, aging parents. Each one is a quiet line item in your future. Each one deserves a real conversation, not a vague intention. The couples who handle this well aren't the richest. They're the ones who talk about money the way they talk about weekend plans, often plainly, without flinching. The couples who struggle aren't always in debt. They're the ones who haven't actually said the numbers out loud in years. Silence is the most expensive financial habit there is. And then there's the comparison trap, which gets louder at 40, not quieter. You'd think by now the noise would fade. It doesn't. It just changes costumes. In your 20s, it was cars and trips. In your 30s, it was houses and titles. In your 40s, it's renovations, schools, second homes, and quiet hints that someone has figured something out you haven't. Most of what you see is performance. Most of what you compare yourself to is a curated edge of someone else's balance sheet. You're measuring your interior against their exterior, and you'll lose every time. Healthy at 40 looks like running your own race with your eyes open. Trap looks like running someone else's race with your eyes closed. The difference is whether you can name your own number. Your number, not your neighbor's, not your brother-in-law's. The amount of money that for you means freedom, dignity, and options. If you can't say that number out loud, that's the work. Not earning more, not investing harder, naming the target. Because here's what happens when you finally name it. Your spending changes without effort. Your saving changes without strain. Your decisions get quieter and more accurate. That's the real shift after 40. Not panic, not hustle, clarity. The men who walk into their 50s calm are the ones who made friends with their numbers in their 40s. They stopped guessing. They started measuring. They didn't become obsessed. They became informed. There's a difference between checking your accounts in fear and checking them in stewardship. If you've made it this far, you're already doing something most men your age won't do. You're sitting with the discomfort instead of scrolling past it. That alone separates you. And if any of this has helped you see your situation a little more clearly, do me a small favor. Tap the like button. It tells the algorithm to show this to another man who needs to hear it tonight. If this channel feels like a quiet room where money finally makes sense, subscribe and turn the bell on. I make these for men in exactly your stage of the game. Drop a comment and tell me which part hit hardest. Was it the lifestyle lock-in? The income versus keeping shift? The number you haven't named yet? I read them. I think about them. They shape what comes next for this channel and for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the inner work that most men avoid until it's too late. That work is the real compounding. In the next video, we go one layer deeper. We look at the exact moment a man's net worth stops growing on autopilot and what to do the day you notice it. Because 40 changes everything about your money. But what you do next changes everything about the rest of your life. And the rest of your life is closer than the man in the mirror wants to admit.